Welcome to Sense Style. I'm Stuart. 8 fragrances I love to my core. And I realize I am a fragrance person. And I meant to love fragrances, but I do have my limits. I tend to put fragrances in 4 different categories. Number 1, I don't like them. There's some fragrances I just don't like. Number 2, that's where most of them fall, is I kind of like them. I'll wear them from time to time. They're pretty solid. Then there's number 3. I really, really like them. And then there's what we have today. Fragrances that I love to my core. These are fragrances that make life worth living. Fragrance number 1, this is Maison Margiela's Jazz Club. And this is a fragrance that I tried a couple of years ago. I really liked it. Initially, I had a hard time getting used to the cigar smoke because this is a tobacco and boozy fragrance meant to smell like a boozy jazz club. And the tobacco note here, it's cigars, so it's meant to be a little stronger. And when I first tried it, it was a little stronger. And I was like, well, I don't know if I like that. I have since definitely grown used to it. This is a fantastic fragrance. It's got a little bit of pink pepper in it as well. It's got a gorgeous vanilla. It's not just, the booze and the smoke. It's just a gorgeous fragrance. It's not quite as strong as some of the other replica, fragrance from the replica lines that I've tried, but I still get 6 hours of solid performance in terms of longevity. I got a good hour of projection. And this is a fragrance that I held off getting for the longest time. And to be perfectly honest, I got it about 4 or 5 months ago, and I really bought it when I really didn't have enough money to feel comfortable buying it, but I bought it anyway, and I don't regret it. Fragrance number 2, this is SJP Stash by Sarah Jessica Parker. And this fragrance has cost me, I believe, more views on my channel than any other fragrance I've ever talked about. It's weird, but if I put certain fragrances in the videos, I'm more likely to get views. But a fragrance like this, which I have prominently talked about a lot over the last 6 months, it can really hurt the video. I'm a bit of a fan of Sarah Jessica Parker, I have to admit. Most guys aren't, though, right? So that's strike 1 against it. Strike 2 is it's unisex, although really it is a men's fragrance. She has all female fragrances in her line. She called this one unisex. She wanted to have something for men, and she fought for this fragrance. But if you go to FragranceNet, it shows up as being a fragrance for women. It isn't. Sarah Jessica Parker marketed as fragrance for women, and it's a little odd. It's a little creative. It's not super well known, but it smells a little bit like butter. It's got a buttery element to it. It's a woody, buttery fragrance. It's just super creative, super different. The performance for a woody fragrance is very, very good. I really like this fragrance. Fragrance number 3, this is Ani by Nishane. And honestly, money is a factor when I'm purchasing fragrances. Otherwise, I would definitely have a full bottle of this. But yeah, I try and stay in to designer. But oh my God, I shouldn't have done that. I just love this. It is a ginger and vanilla scent for the most part. There's a little bit of cardamom that I pick up, but it's mostly, to me anyway, ginger and vanilla. And I'm not a big fan of ginger, but the vanilla here is top notch, and it really is blended nicely. And this particular decant, I not too long ago, I sprayed once on my skin. 24 hours, no exaggeration. Fragrance number 4, Prada Amber Pour Homme. I think this fragrance fits my aesthetic, who I am, who I want to be, more than any other fragrance I own. I firmly believe that if you wear this fragrance on a consistent basis in an office environment, it'll improve your standing in the office and might make you some money. It might get you a raise, might get you promoted. I believe that, though, because it is clean, it is sophisticated, it is classy, and it smells like expensive soap. And who doesn't want to smell like that? So it's got amber, but the amber, it doesn't have an amber note. It has vanilla and 2 resin notes, labdanum and myrrh. And vanilla and 2 resinous notes together make amber. So it goes about creating amber in a different way. It's got amber, it's got a lot of saffron, It's got some musk. Smells like expensive soap. I love this. Fragrance number 5, Supremacy in Oud. And I will say this about Afnan. If there is a fragrance on the market that is known to be niche and has beast mode performance, Afnan are really good at doing a clone. This is a clone of Oud for Greatness, which has beast mode performance. I know because when I first started collecting, I got samples from 8 different popular fragrances from 8 different niche houses just to get an idea. One of them was Oud for Greatness. And so I compared this directly together with the original sample. This does a bloody good job. It's not perfect. It's what you would expect from a clone in terms of the accuracy, but the performance is exceptional, especially projection. I've not really cared. They care about projection. They don't worry too much about longevity. Longevity, 6 or 7 hours. Projection is a good 2 hours of a very sweet oud. And that's what Oud for Greatness is. It is the classic, quintessential sweet oud. And Afnan do a great job. Next up, we have Montblanc Legend Spirit, and this is a fragrance that was my first exposure to Invictus Aqua 2016. That sweet but aquatic / citrus, warm weather, sweet fragrance. And I've never forgotten it because it was such a revelation when I tried it. I absolutely love that DNA, and like I said, this was the first time I tried it. The performance here is an issue, but I do prefer this scent slightly over Rasasi Hawass. Hawass is much stronger and lasts a lot longer, but I prefer the scent here. And I think this one is probably more sentimental than anything else, but you know, sentimental counts. Next up, we have Pacific Rock Moss by Goldfield and Banks. And for those of you that don't know, from the age of 12 to 16, I lived in Sydney, Australia. This is an Australian fragrance. And I wanted to get a fragrance from this particular house. This one seemed very popular, but then I looked at the note breakdown, you know, and I knew it was meant to be an aquatic. And I was like, I didn't understand it. It was geranium, moss, and sage. And those are all aromatic notes. And I'm like, well, how in the hell is that going to smell like an aquatic? Now, it did have a lemon note, but somehow they pulled it off. It really does smell like an aquatic, and a very clean aquatic. The geranium note is fantastic here. Geranium is like super, super fresh floral note. Not entirely aromatic, but not your typical floral note either. It is a masterclass in niche perfumery in this one. This one is criticized because of performance. The problem is, though, I am mostly a designer guy. I have about 10 bottles of niche, but mostly a designer guy. So for me, even though I paid niche prices, I get designer performance. So 5 hours of longevity instead of maybe 8, which I would normally expect with a niche fragrance. But it is, after all, a fresh fragrance. So I give it a little bit of give it a little bit of leeway that way. It is such a lovely fragrance. I don't think it's a big issue. I don't think it'll be a big issue for most people. I think the performance is good enough for me. Finally, we have Minotaure by Paloma Picasso. That is Pablo Picasso, the painter. That is his daughter. She had a fashion house, and she had one male fragrance in 1992, and it was this one. And this one was some sentimental elements here, but I love the scent too. This was David Bowie, one of 2 of his signature scents, and this is really, really nice. I always thought that the original Le Male was the very first heavy vanilla fragrance for men, and then I tried this, and I was kind of surprised because, look, it's not as strong a vanilla as Le Male, but it's not too far off either. So there's a fair amount of vanilla in this, especially for the early 90s. It's very, very sweet. A lot of people might be surprised at just how similar this one is to modern day fragrances. Now, it does have some aromatic notes, quite a few. There's 3 of them. So it's got a little bit of an aromatic, like an herbal feel to it as well, but it's definitely got a lot of vanilla. A problem with this particular bottle, though, is this is one of those bottles where, you know, they take the original fragrance, they water it down, and then they release it for nostalgia reasons. Performance is okay. You know, I get 4 or 5 hours. I get a little bit of projection. It's good enough for me, but I don't like this. This is the atomizer. It's white. It looks kind of cheap. Although I do kind of like the bottle, but overall, the scent, it's what matters, and the scent I really like. Anyway, yeah, I love these to my core. Thanks for watching.